KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tateosian, 90.7 KFSR.
Welcome to another edition of the Central Valley Ledger. We're recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative, Fresno and Clovis, not too far from the newly opened Fulton Street. If you haven't been to downtown lately, you got to come check out some of the restaurants, Fulton Street. It's growing and there's people jogging all the time. And I ask you to come out and support downtown. Our guest this week is a familiar face. I've met him years ago. Michael Karbassi. Is Kia your middle name?
Kia is my first name,
okay,
but
so
Mike's what I've always used.
Mike,
so
welcome
good
to
see
the program.
Thanks
good
for
to see
having
you
me.
again.
Yeah.
So where do I start with you? You have been in town for a very long time.
Yeah, I was born and raised here. Probably the biggest aspect of my life was my family business. I went to Malik Elementary, and our business was about just a block over. So I would go every day after work and spend time with my dad and learn the trade from him. And the name of our business is Persian Rug Collections. It's a rug store.
Okay.
So it's higher quality handmade area rugs from not just Persia, but China and India and all over the world. And that's when I learned, what do they say, you get your bones, you learn about life there.
But you were born in Fresno.
I was.
Born in Fresno, and then what year did your dad open the rug business?
Okay, so that's a great story. So my dad came to the United States in the 60s on a student visa.
Okay.
And when he was a kid, he always had this vision of America, and he wanted to get a bus and take his entire family. He always tells me the story. I wanted to get a bus and take my family to America. You guys have no idea how lucky you are. Didn't realize there's a big ocean in between, but had his chance to come here. He went to Oklahoma, of all places.
Okay.
In 5 years, got his bachelor's and his master's, and then he moved back, and he was a controller for an American oil company. Well, there was a revolution.
Back home.
Back home.
Okay.
There was a revolution. So he had to come back to the United States, and he was a citizen by this time. And at the time, the only way you can take out savings was to buy rugs. So he bought the rugs. This is 1979. He comes here and wants to sell them and then go to Texas and work in the oil business. But guess what? There was a recession. So he had to open a store. And he was looking, where am I going to live in America? He visited a friend of his that went to school with him in Oklahoma, and he was living in Fresno. And he loved two things about Fresno. He loved the fact that you can get fresh fruit like back home. The climate was very similar to back home. And that there was a big Armenian community. And he can get the food that he likes. Because back then you couldn't, you could go anywhere. You get all kinds of international foods everywhere now. Right. Back then you couldn't do that. So it was an Armenian town, and they appreciate rugs because we grew up with it. And you grew up with it too. Yeah. So Fresno was it, and then I was born a few years later, and here we are.
So let's talk a little bit about, you went to school, college, somewhere fancy, or I don't know what to call it, but the name looks fancy.
It was very fancy. It was called Fresno State. But when I was at Fresno State, you mentioned downtown, and I was a part of the entrepreneurship program. I was very lucky because William Lyle and Tim Stearns, Mr. Lyle provided a lot of funding, and Tim Stearns really built this program up and had a lot of opportunities for us. And one of the classes we took was urban revitalization with Craig Sharton. I learned a lot about downtown.
Well, by the way, Craig is a big-time advocate for downtown, and he's a regular on the show because every time there's something new in downtown, I invite him back.
I think they call Craig Mr. Fresno, and he is Mr. Fresno, and that's true. And I absolutely love Craig. I love him so much. I took another class with him. What kind of a student does that unless they like you? But when I was at Fresno State, one of my professors, Ali Pevandi, he retired, but he was an accounting professor and ran the International Business Program. The most enthusiastic accountant I've ever met. And he sent me and the other entrepreneurship students, we went to Sweden for a semester. And this was back in 2004. And Sweden's a wonderful country. I loved it, but it was my first time leaving home, and it made me appreciate home so much more. I had a great time. I learned a lot. One of our professors, he was like the top 10 researcher for entrepreneurship in the world, and access to an education like that is great, and I'm lucky I had that through Fresno State. but it's Jönköping International Business School.
Nice.
And where it's located, it's south central Sweden, but it's not quite south central, so it's safe. It's fine.
There's an ocean near it or something.
Yeah, so Sweden has thousands of lakes. Finland's known as the land of lakes, but Sweden has thousands of them. Vättern, which is the second largest lake in Sweden, it's so large, it's like an ocean. I mean, you will not see the end of it, and it is a saltwater lake. So it was nice. There's nice people, nice weather. It got dark at 3 o'clock, but I got used to that. But yeah.
So at some point, you decide to run for council, because I met you.
That's right.
When you were running for council. And so what made you run for council? Well, this is going to be several questions, so I'll let you answer. What made you decide I'm going to run for council?
Well, I remember when I told someone that I'm running this time, he said, "Well, you crazy?" I guess I didn't know any better, but no. When I was younger, there were very specific issues, especially with land use and development in like the Garden Loop area in West Fresno. I was really passionate about that. And I thought, you know what? I just started voting and I want to do more. It's time, so let's do more. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring, and I started late at that time, and I learned you got to start early. But I ran. I was very lucky. I got the endorsement of the Fresno Bee and a couple other organizations, the Fresno City Employees Association, and a few other organizations. So it meant a lot to me. But I encourage anyone who's passionate to get involved.
See, and the thing with running for you is you didn't win.
I didn't.
It's no secret.
Right.
But you don't use that, like some people who lose those kind of races, you just, like, they disappear and they're done and they're disgusted. But like here you are years later.
Right.
I think you're even more passionate than I first met you. So
I hope so.
What did you learn from that experience?
You know, I was talking to TJ Cox last month after he won his election.
Who just won election.
Yeah, and he
by
actually
500 votes, by the way. That was a narrow race.
Right. I honestly, I was hoping. I didn't think it was going to happen. It happened. He ran against Radonovich years ago, so I remember him when he ran in my district when I was much younger. And he said, "Mike, I've lost every single race I've won in, and I won this one. And look at all the things I'm hoping to do. So don't give up." And I think that not giving up is really important. One thing I learned was, okay, maybe it's time to get a little more life experience. And so I started my own business, which was called Berlin Street Grill.
Yeah, I heard about the food, the restaurant.
Right. What happened when I was in Sweden, there were a lot of immigrants there. And one thing that's really popular in Germany that found its way into Sweden is a fusion of Mediterranean and German food. Don't ask me why. It's like I love Chinese food. That's big. I'm sure it's bigger than America than other parts. It's just a special thing. Or a pizza, how pizza is in America versus Italy.
Right, right.
It's called döner. It's like kind of like a gyro or a shawarma. It's cooked in a vertical broiler. It's really healthy, and we made everything there from scratch. It wasn't pre-made stuff. It was the best experience of my life. Having 5 employees, it was pressure, but it was really motivational to me, because we have Yelp when you're in a restaurant, and you get feedback real fast.
Oh yeah, so if a customer is not happy,
yeah, you're going to find out.
You're going to find out right away. And guess what? I don't mean to interrupt you, but
right? No, please.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be times where people like me are going to Google, and Yelp is going to come up. So if there's a bad review, I'm looking for the response, and if the response isn't there, I'm like, oh.
You'd be surprised. Now, we always responded, but there were restaurants where I would see the response, and I was like, this can't be real. You can't talk to a customer that way. I remember the first negative review we got, and we had just started, and we had this certain policy about how we'll deal with the situation. And I learned quick, oh, you know what, we were wrong. And I told the customer, I'm sorry, we were completely wrong, and you were right, and I hope you give us another shot. That was the right attitude to have, because I learned, for example, we wear gloves when we prepare food. If I don't wear gloves, the employees aren't going to wear gloves. And it's a small lesson in that what you do, people follow. The only reason why we had good Yelp reviews was because of my employees. I had a young employee who was 18 years old. He was started when he was 17, he was 18. And I always loved it when people would say, "Do you own the business?" Because he was so passionate about it. And his name is Richie. He's a good kid. And he just graduated.
Shout out to Richie.
Shout out to Richie, yeah. And he's at Costco now, and he just works super hard. He's actually going to hopefully be a lawyer one day. Sharp kid, anyways. But I like the idea that I can employ someone and help them. My assistant manager, she ended up going to Fresno State, and she's doing psychology, and she moved on from the company. But we still have parties. We still have like a Christmas party every year. Even though we sold it in October, we still had our party and we got together because you build a family. There's a culture you build. So I don't mean to veer off topic. But
No, this is great.
that life experience and knowing how to navigate through regulations like with payroll, we talk about minimum wage going up. And this is a state issue. It's not necessarily local, but it does impact us because it's about how much money people have to spend in the community.
Well, and then you're going to have to increase costs. You're going to make up the cost somewhere.
Well, we'll talk about that. That's right. So the $15 an hour wage was okay. I didn't mind that because, heck, I'd pay them $20 if I could because they work really hard, but we're a small sandwich shop. So the nice thing is they gave us incremental increases. I can deal with that. What people don't always understand is when you have that, you're also going to get workman's comp that goes up because it's not based on how much you make, it's based on your total payroll dollars.
Okay.
And then my payroll taxes that I have to contribute go up too. So I can deal with all that. I just have to increase my cost a little bit and hopefully not too much to where I scare you away. Because you have a family. How many kids do you have?
3.
3. That's 5 people.
Right. And if
when
prices are too high, guess what? And you know what? I'm the kind of person that I'm going to bring lunch home from home every day because, we're on a budget.
And
so I'm not your best customer.
But I'm on a budget too. I was a small business owner. I'm still on a budget. But is your wife a good cook?
Great cook.
That's why you take lunch. That's the number one. If she's watching, that's why he takes his lunch from home. I do the same thing too. But you're my market. And in Fresno, it's a test market for a lot of companies. One thing I learned in the rug business that my father was told by a friend of his that he passed on to me, always assume your customers are smarter than you, especially in Fresno. This is an Armenian town. That means if you're good to people, the next day everybody knows. But if you're bad to people, the next day everybody knows. I don't care we're the 5th largest city in the state.
Right.
We still have that. It's very comforting to have that small town accountability.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience. So kind of roundabout, going back to what you were saying, one thing I learned from the last time that I ran, and I was very passionate about it. Now I'm more practical about it.
But you were young too.
I was really young.
You threw your name in,
Right.
and you went through with it. You went door to door.
I did.
But you were a young candidate.
I hadn't graduated from university. I have a bachelor's degree now. Didn't have enough work experience. I have over 15 years of business ownership experience. Dealt with budgets, and the city budget is very complicated, believe it or not. It's over $1 billion. So for me, I'm a numbers guy, and I'm not lazy. I don't mind asking questions. I will go through something line by line because whenever I had my business and the state would come to me and say, this is what happened actually, we're talking about budgets. I can deal with the minimum wage increase. What happened was they increased the employer contribution to disability within 1 year. There wasn't an incremental thing. So I'm asking why, and I'm looking at policy to find the answer to it because not everyone can afford to do that. You have kids and you have a family and you work and I work and you do this volunteer. You're busy. How can you do all this? You need someone that you can count on, not to get elected because they want to be a councilman. Being a councilman's not the...
It's not the prestige that it's out to be.
And it shouldn't be. It should be about working hard because you work for your neighbors. Because you're going to see me in the grocery store, what did you do that for? Or good job. And that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know why some people run. I know why I ran, and I know why I'm doing it again. There are specific issues I'm really concerned about, and I'm tired of waiting for someone to actually address them.
Yeah.
So.
You seem more mature now than you were the first time around. So do you think the first time around when you ran, you were young, did the youth put a barrier between you and some voters?
I said never assume that you're smarter than your customers. I think with folks, they're reasonable. They want to know that somebody is able to do the job. And the fact that I didn't have my degree yet, I think that hurt me a little bit. I think they appreciated that I was from the neighborhood, and it was nice to have someone who was an actual born and raised with the values native to Northwest. But I don't blame them for that. I understand that. And instead of saying, oh, man, this is tough, I'm angry, I said, I better get off my butt and get some experience. And I've done that. And that actually pushed me to open my business too. Because you think a councilman's not going to run into brick walls, they want to do something, they're going to say, oh, you can't do that. My goal, I want to have at least 900 police officers that are not special duty patrolling our streets. And that's a big goal because we have to add probably another 100 positions to do that. It's a big goal. Well, it's not going to happen by asking for it. We're going to have to push, and I'm going to have to be resilient, and I'm going to find other people that want to do that and make it happen. But that's a lofty goal.
Let's go back to now the Persian rug business.
Yeah.
So rugs, some rugs are very expensive, some rugs are very cheap. To someone who doesn't know what they're looking for, you could have two of them next to each other and you would think one is expensive and it's not. What's the secret? There's got to be a secret to the Persian rug business.
My dad's the secret. You know, and you met my dad before. We try to educate our customers whether they want to buy it from us or not, because the reason why when we first opened, we were going to sell handmade and machine-made rugs. Believe it or not, handmade rugs last longer. It takes longer to make a handmade rug. Every knot's done by hand, and it's done professionally, and they'll lock the pile in place so you, like a cat, can't scratch it all out. With the machine-made ones, you can actually, they'll get destroyed. We try to tell people how to spot a real one from a fake one. Because I don't know anything about jewelry. I can look at a diamond and say, that's
wow,
nice.
That's a pretty diamond. Turns out to be a cubic zirconia.
Yeah, exactly. So I try to teach people how to figure that difference out. But there's a reason why we decided to sell handmade rugs. Like I said, people talk in this town and reputation matters. And we don't want to sell someone a rug. We want them to buy one. That's our philosophy, that you choose. So we wanted to have a quality product so that you won't have buyer's remorse. When you buy a Persian rug, it's the kind of thing you pass down to your kids, but it's also the kind of thing that keeps its value. So we've had customers, we tell them, you buy a Persian rug from us, if you want to exchange it in 5 years, bring it back and you get something of equal or higher value. Stores don't do that. We do that because...
That's incredible, because you're taking a used product.
Right. Well, that's the thing though. That's another secret. Used rugs are more valuable than brand new rugs. They appreciate over time.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Today, in other countries, they're producing Persian-style rugs, and they'll artificially make them look older by the dyeing or acid washing the pile and cutting the fringe real short. They'll even cut the pile shorter to give it that older look.
So interesting.
But yeah, we try to give people as much, and hopefully we don't talk too much.
So Gary Johnson is the technical director,
Yeah.
and he's making us look and sound good.
Yeah,
he
that's
asked
right.
a question to you that I didn't think about.
Right.
Where are Persian rugs made these days?
So as far as quality goes and appreciation and value, they still make them in Persia or Iran. That's their second largest export after oil. Who knew?
And they come here to the United States, though?
They did, and there have been economic sanctions since then, so they don't. But there's such an oversupply that for us, we have a lot. We have them in our warehouse, or we'll just call a friend of ours and we trade back and forth. So we can find what people are looking for. But after that, quality-wise and material-wise, I would say China is the second largest market.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they make them in Armenia, they make them in India, they make them in Pakistan. That's a new emerging market that's really big.
Is there a big market? I mean, like when you're talking about Persian rugs, is there a big market for them? Who's buying them?
That's a good question. So we have customers that are doctors and lawyers and teachers and union workers. It's everybody. We just... they're not all expensive. It's all about, if you get a handmade rug, hand knotted, not hand tufted, hand knotted, the worst quality hand knotted rug, it's going to last 100 years.
But what's the price on the cheapest rug for a room? I mean, I know it's all based
fair.
on size.
No, it's fair. So 6x9 is a good size for a living room. It's in our favor for you to get a bigger rug, but we say, no, we don't care about that. We want you to be happy. Don't cover the rug you're going to get. Don't get an oversized rug. So 6 feet by 9 feet, about $1,200 and up.
That's handmade, though.
Handmade.
So when you go somewhere, I'm glad we're having this discussion.
Oh, sure.
I went to somewhere the other day,
Yep.
and there was a rug. Again, for me, I don't know the difference because
Right.
I'm not an expert in it. I admit it. There was a rug that was made, and I was like, wow, this is nice with the patterns and stuff.
Right.
And the guy wanted $100 for it. And I'm like, this can't be handmade. Now, he didn't say it was handmade.
Right.
So chances are the rug that I saw
Right.
for $100 that was bigger than you mentioned
Right.
is not handmade.
Yeah. And if it was, buy it.
Yeah, that's
And then come sell it to me.
Yeah.
Probably not. One thing you do is you look at the front and the back of the rug. It should look the same. Now, if you see a bunch of white or it's not as clear, it's going to be machine made.
The white
Okay.
that you see. So that's okay.
It's machine made. And there are little tricks like the fringe on the rug, the tassels. On a real rug, that's actually like the skeleton of the rug, and it's not sewed on there. But on the fake stuff, they'll add it on there afterwards. So, and you can feel the material. Our rugs are actually wool or silk. Those are just, they could be wool, but they could be olefin or fake materials.
So I have never, you're probably interview 600 that we've done on this show.
Okay.
We've never talked about rugs. So that was the reason I wanted to bring you
It's
on.
a good first time, right?
Because, there's a lot of people, I go to their house and they have these nice rugs on there. So how do you clean these Persian rugs?
Okay, so you would think something made by a machine is really durable.
Yeah.
You would think that like with wall-to-wall carpets, thicker is better. On Persian rugs, everything is opposite. Whatever you think you know, you don't know. And we'll teach you. So thinner the rug, higher the quality, more knots per square inch. Cleaning the rugs, they're all water washable. In the old country, I'm not even joking, they'll put them in a lake with a bar of soap and scrub them down. Now, you want to do it professionally because you don't know where you got it from. All our rugs, we make sure the colors won't run. Like quality-wise, when I say Persian is better, those colors usually don't run, but you want to be careful with blues and reds, and you can get stains out. The hardest thing are pet stains, but I have dogs, so I don't get mad when they do what they do on the rug.
So if someone has any questions about rugs, quality rugs, even if they're not going to buy from your company, but they want an education lesson on Persian rugs, could they come to you and ask you?
Absolutely. So we're located at Bullard and West. We're on the south east corner next to the Manhattan. It's 1731 West Bullard. They can call.
You were on the other side before, right?
We were. Yeah, we move around. The rugs are flying carpets, so you know how it goes. But our phone number is 431-4373. Call with your questions. Our website is PersianRugCollections.com. We have articles on how to care for your rug. One thing people don't know, they are durable, but they can be abused. One way to keep your rug looking new, when you have spring cleaning, rotate it from one end to the other. Even traffic flow. And it'll last twice as long that way. It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference.
Interesting. So Fresno, are we a Persian rug market? I mean, is this what you call in the housing market right now, people are people buying Persian rugs?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've had a dozen competitors that have come in here over the years, and they all leave. The reason why is they think they can trick people and have these ridiculous sales and increase their prices, and people are wise to that. You know, when you want to have confidence when you buy something, if you see a rug and the place is always going out of business or they're always on sale, you kind of question that. But it's been good enough to where it's supported, my father supported his family with this business.
And we talked off air, I don't mean to interrupt you, but your father was an accountant, or is an accountant.
Yeah, he was an accountant, and he got his bachelor's and his MBA in 5 years and was an auditor for an oil company.
And now he's decided that,
yeah, he liked Fresno, and he liked the rug business and people, and they can make them happy, and I grew up in it, and it's just a nice way. People still come in, when they're not buying, they've bought a rug, and they say, I love my rug. Because I know it's like a piece of furniture, but it's more than that. You pass it down to your family, or you just see it all the time. It's art that you can walk on. I mean, imagine that.
So, walking on Persian rugs, shoes off or shoes on, or socks?
It's your house. Do whatever you want. It won't damage it.
That's why I asked, because sometimes people will take their shoes off before they go on the rug.
Right.
Now, I don't know what rugs they have, so I can't say yes or no, but if it's a Persian rug, it doesn't matter. No, they're really durable. I mean, we have people that bring rugs for us to wash. Their dogs and their paws have like dirt, and that happens. The rugs actually take a lot of dirt in. You won't also always see it, and over time you notice the change, but they can be cleaned. I mean, they're completely water washable. It's not like a surface wash. You just clean the rug and they're back to new. It's such an interesting topic, for me at least, because, like I said, I know a lot of people that have rugs, but people don't really think about inviting somebody on a program to talk about rugs. It's like, it's not really the sexy topic, I guess. There was a program on NPR years ago about this book that came out, and it had a CD that came with it. And it's all the sounds our kids are never going to hear. Like one was a 56K modem, and I remember that sound when you'd call in, or a typewriter, or other things, a train whistle. Rugs are like a pastime. It's, when you go and buy furniture, if you're not going to IKEA, there are only so many places in town you can get handmade quality furniture. Quality has been replaced with convenience and it being fast and instant gratification. But the thing about a Persian rug, it's built to last, and it's an asset. So maybe that's why we don't talk about it as much. We've kind of shifted as a society. And I think eventually we're going to go back and we're going to want quality made goods, because back when we used to make everything here, people were employed. It was a skill.
And that just isn't the case anymore. The trend is in the other direction. But you still have people like Armenians or Persians that grow up with the rugs, and we want them, or people that appreciate the fact that it's art, they can use it, and it's a good investment too.
So, tell us why people should care. I mean, we're going to jump back. We're almost out of time
Sure.
here, but why should people care about our community? You decided to run at a young age.
Right.
You were passionate.
Right.
Something lit that fire in your belly. Why should people care about their community?
There was an article you wrote in the paper last month. I don't know if you mentioned it on the show, but what I really liked about that article is it is so easy to care about the community. All you have to do is vote. That's the minimum. Now, if you voted in the last election, that ballot was intimidating with all the propositions and the people running for judge and all the regular things. And people don't realize, look, I'm not saying you should do this, but if that's going to stop you from voting, just vote for the things you believe in. Vote for your council member, vote for your mayor at the very least, because those are the people you're going to see every day. You know, Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. If you're worried about, like last night, somebody broke my car window, and that really did happen.
Oh,
second
I'm sorry
time
to
in
hear
a,
about that.
It happens. Second time in a year. And the thing is, you can say, well, I can't do anything about that. Everything's all messed up and corrupt. Well, no, here's the reality of it. The police department gets 400,000 calls a year. And we don't have enough police officers to manage the call volume. We don't have enough dispatchers. And they're already overtasked.
So are they going to go to a broken window or an assault call or something?
Right, and I understand that, but the thing is, when someone tells me it happened to them, that's the biggest issue for them. So everyone deserves to be serviced. Now, we do prioritize things, but I really think that's a problem we can solve. So, and I brought that up earlier, and public safety is big with me, but there are other issues too. It's just, you should care because you can make a difference. At the local level, at the very least, you can.
Well, and if you go down to the county clerk's website, you'll see that there were some races that were decided on
That's right.
10, 12 votes. So
Right.
that's one street. I mean, you know, you've walked the district.
That's right.
That's one street of voters right there.
And we talk about a congressional race, we mentioned Cox. I mean, a congressional race, thousands of votes cast, and he won by hundreds of votes.
500 votes, I think, was
Right.
the last call, and that unseated a sitting congressman.
Right,
So
and that has big changes. So at the local level, there have been races won with 5 votes, yeah.
So I didn't realize this was going to get so political in politics, but I thought
It's
we were talking
nonpartisan,
about,
so we're good.
It is, but I didn't realize that we're going to talk about politics so much.
Right.
But it's obvious you still have that passion. So whatever you decide, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
We're out of time this
All
week
right.
on the program.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time, and
Right.
thank you for the education on Persian rugs.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
caring about the rugs. Thank you.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. Our guest this week is Michael Karbassi. He is in the Persian rug business. He also was a candidate running for city council in the past. Thank you to our volunteer crew that made this production and every production possible. Gary Johnson is our director for the evening, making us look and sound good. Thank you also to those listening to this broadcast on Comcast 93 and AT&T 99, the CMAC channels, and also listening on KFSR 90.7 FM. We hope you enjoyed the program this week. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For a complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.